Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Barrie Redfern.
Good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, the 11th of July from Manx Radio. Tonight, news that almost 30% of food served in 2 schools is classed as ultra-processed. The airport director challenges criticism over service cuts and delays. And an increase in taxi fares is put on hold, but the cost of running a taxi is to increase by 22%. More on those stories, plus weather and traffic news in Update.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
Now, 29 minutes to 6, the news headlines with Siobhan Fletcher. First am I.
The Isle of Man's inflation rate has dropped. The rate, as measured by the Consumer Prices Index, stood at 6.9% in June. That's down from 7.6% in May. Almost 30% of food being served in 2 of the island's secondary schools is classed as ultra-processed. The figures have been published by the Department of Education, Sport and Culture following a query about the meals it serves in Manx schools. Plans to redevelop the Nautical Museum in Castletown into an all-weather visitor centre have gone on public display today. The open day being held down there is on until 7 p.m. at the Castletown Civic Centre. Further afield, a second person's made a complaint about a BBC presenter accused of paying thousands of pounds for sexually explicit photos. They reportedly say they felt under pressure to meet up after messaging on a dating app and received abusive texts from him. UK mortgage rates have soared to their highest in 15 years. The average 2-year fix is now 6.66%. And the NHS is expanding use of the shingles vaccine in England. The jab will be given to 1 million more people in the coming months. They're your headlines. News at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
And there'll be outbreaks of rain this evening, but the minimum temperature falling no lower than 11 Celsius. Tomorrow will be mainly dry with sunny intervals, but with a risk of the odd shower. Moderate westerly winds and a top temperature reaching 18 Celsius. Thursday will be dry with sunny spells, light to moderate southwest wind, and a maximum temperature up to 18 Celsius. Sunset at 9:48 p.m, sunrise at 5 a.m. High water this evening at 7:13, low water in the morning at 1:23 a.m, high water tomorrow at 7:37 a.m.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
Almost 30% of food served in 2 of the island secondary schools is classed as ultra-processed. The figures have been published by the Department of Education, Sport and Culture following a query about the meals it serves in Manx schools.
Garth MHK Daphne Kane asked for a breakdown of ultra-processed meals provided in primary and secondary schools by DESC. At Ballacameen High School, around 29% of meals are composed of ultra-processed foods, as rated by the Nova Food Classification System, while at Ramsey Grammar School the figure stands at 28%. Just under 24% of the meals served at QE2 and St Ninian's were in the same category, while at 19% Castle Rushen serves the fewest ultra-processed meals. At Manx primary schools, items like fizzy drinks, deep-fried foods and chocolate bars aren't available. Of the 30 main meals and 15 desserts on the current primary school menu, 7 are primarily composed of ultra-processed foods, which is around 15.5%. According to the Nova Food Classification System, ultra-processed foods are those which have been industrially formulated, often with additives, and have high energy but low nutritional value.
Time now, 25 minutes to 6. Social media speculation that EasyJet should have given more notice of its plan to shelve a number of flights to and from the island has been challenged. Airport Director Gary Cobb says whilst the airline's decision to cut or change a number of services is frustrating for passengers, it's not within the airport's control. And he maintains not all delays at Ronaldsway are due to the current air traffic control restrictions.
Airlines change schedules all the time. And I saw on social media a lot of people have, it's disrespectful to the Isle of Man that they don't tell us. I doubt that any other airport, apart from maybe Gatwick, will have been told, mainly because it's just a small change in terms of an airport. We don't contract with airlines on route. I think there seems to be a misconception that we sit there and sell the route to Gatwick and then therefore we can kick EasyJet off it and then bring somebody else in. That's not how routes work. EasyJet will come to us and say we want to fly the Gatwick route, and then our published fares or our contracted fares with the airline then come in. It's not we sit there and say, oh, you can fly there or fly here at this time. The flying times, the destinations are completely and utterly at the airline's discretion. Any commercial airport wouldn't actually really care where airlines fly to, because ultimately they'll get the revenue no matter where they fly to. It's a little bit different in this role in that it's part commercial airline and then it's part lifeline service. So we do a lot of work to try and look after what routes we protect in order to provide the air connectivity that the island requires. So we'll have conversations to try and protect routes, but ultimately if someone's changing a frequency or cutting one out of the middle, then it's unlikely that we would be told. If they were pulling off the route completely, absolutely, they would have probably spoken to us about it, but they've just removed some parts of their schedule in the hope, I think, from on their side that gives them the flexibility to be able to guarantee the other flights that are coming to make sure that they go.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
A Douglas man has been further remanded at the Isle of Man prison after being caught with a carrier bag full of cannabis. Tessa Hawley reports.
Daniel James Glassy appeared at Douglas Courthouse today. The 32-year-old admitted possessing the Class B drug with intent to supply it outside his home, as well as a charge of possession at police headquarters. Police arrived on Castle Drive on the 3rd of July after Glassy was overheard talking about cannabis. They found him with a bag containing 97.5 grams of the substance and a set of weighing scales. The court was told the drug had a street value of £2,000. He was arrested, and when searched at police headquarters, officers found a further 0.4 grams of cannabis valued at £8 in his sock. In an interview, Glassy told officers he'd been in need of money to pay his rent and had been contacted over the previous weekend by an old friend who he disclosed his money troubles to. He described how he was picked up from work that day by an unknown male in a black Range Rover who had given him the carrier bag. Glassy said when he'd been dropped off at home, he'd had second thoughts and had called the friend to get the man to come and take the cannabis back. However, police arrived first. Committal proceedings, where the case is elevated to the Court of General Jail Delivery, took place today. Glassy will be sentenced before the higher court. There was no application for bail, and he'll next appear there on Friday.
The cost of running a taxi on the Isle of Man is set to increase. An increase in fares for passengers has been put on hold, but Tynwald will be asked to approve a 22% increase in licence fees and registration for taxi drivers. John Moss has this report.
It's been 6 years since the current level of fees were arrived at, and the Road Traffic Licensing Committee argue a rise is necessary, and if the taxi industry doesn't pay it, it will have to come from the general public. Graham Curfey, Chairman, and Noel Capewell, Secretary of the RTLC.
The Manx Taxi Federation and the Unite Taxi Union were consulted quite some time ago, because this process started probably about a year ago, actually. They weren't overjoyed about it. They accepted it.
This is the licence fees, so it's not the tariffs. When you get into a taxi, it's up to the taxi driver what they charge, is it? But
so it depends where that person gets into a taxi. If they hail it on the street or if they get it on a rank, that's ply for hire, and the tariff is the maximum that can be charged. If it's a pre-booking, say you phone up the day before wanting to go to the airport, the fare should be agreed between the two parties at that point. But what tends to happen in practice with the pre-booking they get in, and you agree that you'll go by the tariff.
How is the taxi world going?
We try to encourage people to use taxis. It might not have been noticed this year. We had a tariff increase last year. We get asked each year by the RCLC whether we wish to have a tariff increase. We put it to our members this year and overwhelmingly voted for no tariff increase again this year. For the simple reason we understand that people's pockets aren't as wide as they used to be with the cost of living crisis that we've had, etc. And we wanted to try and encourage people to use taxis as much as they were doing before, and not take the service away from them because of a tariff increase.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
And the Ben McCree departed Heysham this afternoon, expected here in Douglas at 5 to 6. The Manannan departed this afternoon and expected in Liverpool a few moments ago, actually, and will be leaving Liverpool at 7:15, expected in Douglas at 10 o'clock. Ben McCree departing Douglas at 7:45, expected in Heysham at 11:30, and the overnight sailing from Heysham, from the Ben McCree, expected in Douglas at 6 in the morning.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
Royal Mail says it's continuing to hold discussions with Isle of Man Post Office about the future of the mail plane. It follows a consultation into proposed changes to the UK Post Scheme and the Overseas Post Scheme, and consideration of whether the ferry could be used to bring mail to and from the island. Tessa Hawley has more.
25 responses were received to the Royal Mail consultation, which ran between the 2nd of May and the 2nd of June. It asked for comments about changing the definition of due date for mail going to Guernsey, Jersey and the Isle of Man, and considered allowing an extra day for mail to be in transit to these locations. They are not covered by domestic Ofcom requirements, which include a next day service to every address across the United Kingdom. As such, Royal Mail has considered whether it could use an alternative to air travel, something which would also align with its commitment to become net zero by 2040. Prior to the consultation, the organisation worked with Jersey Post on an opportunity to remove the daily flight between the UK and Jersey. The idea was also discussed with Guernsey, but Royal Mail says it won't be progressed at this time. Final decisions on the removal of flights will be made following further discussions between Royal Mail and the respective postal authorities. Simon Neen, the Chief Executive of Isle of Man Post Office, says the Post Office Board has approved a project to investigate the impact of potential changes to mail transfer arrangements, and this workstream will report back to the Post Office Board once complete. Whilst the removal of the mail plane would jointly reduce costs for the Post Office and Royal Mail, he says, as well as demonstrating that commitment to minimising the impact on the environment, he adds that the Post Office needs to fully understand what benefits could be achieved, assess financially viable alternative next day options, and, importantly, consider the views of the customers, both commercial and residential.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
The Pennon Group today announced the acquisition of 3 new renewable energy generation projects as part of its long-term sustainable growth strategy. The FTSE 250 company said the 3 projects located in Buckinghamshire, Aberdeenshire and Cumbria were expected to generate more than 95 gigawatts of electricity annually from solar photovoltaic sources. The acquisition and expected build costs for the 3 projects total £85 million. On the stock market, the UK and European markets ended the day on a high, with investors looking ahead to the key US inflation figures later this week. The pound hit a 15-month high after pay growth exceeded expectations. Oil prices edged higher, supported by supply cuts by the world's biggest oil exporters and hopes for higher demand in the developing world in the second half of 2023. Gold prices edged higher, helped by a pullback in the dollar and bond yields. So a closer look at the markets now. At the close, the FTSE 100 was at 7,282. That's up 0.12%. DAX 15,790, up 0.75. At 10 to 5, the Dow Jones was 34,088, that's up 0.42. S&P 4,419, up 0.22. And the Nasdaq 13,691, that's up 0.04. The exchange rates, the pound against the US dollar is 1.289, against the euro 1.173. And on the commodities market, gold is up 0.35 at 1,931 US dollars. Brent up 1.88 at 79.21 US dollars.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Time now 14 minutes to 6. An island-based business is hosting a Pride event this year after Isle of Pride announced last year it would be its last. Aoife Meyer told Manx Radio what's happening.
So the reason we're running a Pride event, which we don't normally do, we're like axe throwing, gigs, metal, all stuff like that. But last year, obviously, Isle of Pride did their last Pride event, and we were speaking to people that we know in the LGBTQIA plus community this year, and they were saying that they're not aware, and we're not aware of anything happening. So we wanted to do basically something for it that's inclusive of everybody to go down to. The date of the event is Saturday the 15th of July, and the event will be running from 12 p.m. until 1:30 a.m. And the day is split into a family-friendly event part of the day, which is 12 p.m. till 7 p.m, and then the more party scene for the evening from 7 p.m. until 1:30 a.m. So the day event, which is the family-friendly part, will have music from That Kelly Bird and music from Spaghetti and the Hoops, as well as a bingo event, axe throwing, colouring in, and an assortment of games. And then in the evening, we originally were going to have a drag race that started at 7 p.m. However, we don't have enough drags for the event, but we do have 4 drags who are going to be performing for you. So we're going to have Vida LaFierce, Vincent Finery, Mathea Lahore, and El Hay. And then after that, we're going to have DJ Sound and Nick Charles, who will be providing music until the very early hours.
How important do you think it is for the island to actually have that kind of Pride event?
I think every community deserves to have a voice, especially the LGBTQI plus community. And we have quite a strong form of that community that come down to Madjax on a regular anyway. So we're constantly in talks with them. And it was DJ Sound that actually came to us and said that she wasn't aware of anything happening. So we were like, why don't we do something? Why don't we host it? However, unfortunately, we don't have any backing like Isle of Pride did from the government and stuff, which was lovely and fantastic that everyone could go to for free. We are charging for our ticket, but the ticket prices are there because we are paying all the acts, because we want to support that community.
Manx Radio Sport.
And Rhian Evans has our sports news this afternoon. First to my Rhian.
First to my good afternoon. Manx golfer Tom Gandy is back in action this week. From the 13th till the 16th of July, he'll be teeing off in Austria at the Bank Open on the Challenge Tour. It's the second time he'll be competing in this competition, with his last visit resulting in 8th overall and the best result of his career at that point, a performance he's hoping to recreate this time around. The Manx golfer has put out solid results in his last 2 events. At the Blot Open, he tied 48th, making his first cut on the Challenge Tour this year. And just last week, back on the Clutch Pro Tour, Tom managed to tie 11th in Wales. And 2 of the island's gyms are going head-to-head to see who is strongest in a bid to raise money for Manx powerlifting. Revolution and Fusion Barbell will battle to see who can pull a horse tram across Douglas Promenade in the quickest time. All funds raised from the event will go towards the development of powerlifting on the Isle of Man, and also to buy additional competition kit to cater for a much wider audience and hold a more diverse range of competitions. The head-to-head is taking place on the 16th of July at midday. More information can be found on the Manx Powerlifting Facebook page.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So let's have a look at what's happening in the air at Ronaldsway. And it looks like everything is working wonderfully, all on time, so won't dwell on all those. So let's turn to the roadworks now. And by the way, you can get right up to date with all the roadworks news by going to manxradio.com, click on news and then click on travel. So just mention that the Southern 100 takes place this week, as you probably already know, and the road closures around the Boulogne circuit today and Wednesday 6:05 to 9:45 this evening, and on Thursday from 9:30 to 12:45, and then in the afternoon from 1:30 to 4:45.
H&HMotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
There have been more medals for Team Isle of Man at the Island Games in Guernsey. Rob Pritchard is there for us.
It was gold and bronze for the Isle of Man at the Women's Mountain Biking Criterium today. Gold came in the team event for Sasha Hosthouse and Kiri Quayle, whilst Kiri came third overall in the individual competition to take an individual bronze. Meanwhile, the men's mountain bike team also took a team bronze for themselves. There are more medal hopes tonight after Peter Allen, who won silver in the swimming pool last night, competes again, this time in the 100-metre butterfly and 200-metre freestyle. Magnus Kelly is also in the 200-metre freestyle final, and Alex Turnbull races in the 50-metre breaststroke. In athletics heats this morning, Megan Pilley, Lydia Morris, Daniel Clegg and Ben Sinclair qualified for tonight's 200-metre semi-finals. Also tonight there are Manx hopes in javelin, shot put, 1500 metres and hurdles. Elsewhere at the Games today, in tennis, hopes for a Manx singles tennis medal rest solely with Anna Kirk, who's made it into the semi-finals of the Ladies' Championship. Men's doubles pair, Ori Farnworth and Sean Drury, also made it through to their quarter-finals. In badminton, Toby Cheng has made it into the round of 16, whilst the women's and doubles events are yet to get underway. In table tennis, the Isle of Man finished 10th in the team competition after losing to Gibraltar in the positioning playoffs. They had a strong start to the day with a win over the Shetland Islands. Afterwards, I spoke to team manager Maggie Mulhern.
They're very important because we don't play at this standard too often. Island Games, we haven't had it for 4 years, so it takes a while to get back to playing at that standard again.
At the shooting range, Wes Reed made it through to the final of the 10-metre air rifle event and finished 6th.
He stood up to the pressure, qualified well, and he did his best in the final, so he should be proud that he came 6th. I know he probably doesn't see it that way right now, but it's his first time competing against people from all over the world.
His father Andy Reid speaking there. And in basketball, the Manx men were defeated by Menorca by a score of 114 to 55.
A top TT rider has opened up about the impact a crash has had on his mental health. Lee Johnston crashed at the Northwest 200 in May, resulting in a broken femur and shoulder, breaks in the foot and face, several broken ribs and a collapsed lung. Johnson has been very vocal on social media, thanking people for their support, and has now released a vlog on his YouTube channel discussing how the accident is impacting him mentally.
Firstly, I wanted to talk about the mental side of things and the situation that I was in, or I'm currently in. I've started to go and see a trauma psychologist, which honestly I knew within 2 days of waking up in the hospital there wasn't something right. I kept saying to Christy that I thought that someone else went to sleep in the hospital and this person's woke up, which sounds crazy, but that's what it felt like in my head. And I'm getting better, a lot better. Obviously the support of everybody around me and things like that, but honestly, yeah, that's the biggest. The injuries are a massive drawback, but I can literally see myself in day to day or week to week getting better. Obviously you have some bad days, but I think the biggest thing I suffered with first of all was the feeling of letting people down, or I don't know the right way of saying it. I think of feeling that I'd let the team down, I'd let the sponsors down, let myself down, and I don't know why, because the massive part of our job is you have a crash, you get hurt, and that's it. But because I had such a a good start to the year with the British Championship, and even I was so happy with the bikes, all the bikes, even the Superbike and the Superstock bike, and I think it made it worse. And the amount of work I'd put in over the winter, and obviously with running the team and stuff, and that was really, really hard to take at the start. So yeah, once I'd sort of got over that, and then I thought, oh, I'm okay now, and then like the trauma of it all just wouldn't leave me. So it was like having these massive episodes of basically having a meltdown and crying and not knowing why I was crying or what. I didn't know what was happening and stuff. Not easy to take when I suppose you base your whole life on being mentally tough.
And that's just about it for this evening's update. Coming up after the news, Island Life looks back over 150 years of the island's steam railway. And you'll be able to download it as a podcast, as you can this programme. Details are on the Manx Radio website. Tonight's newsreader was Siobhan Fletcher, and Andy Wint is back tomorrow. From me, Barrie Redfern, have a good evening.